I've been thinking, maybe I've been naive my whole life. Only now am I realising, why do we trust them? Why do we assume the people in charge have our best interests at heart? Maybe they're in charge because they shouldn't be trusted. Ricky Gervais has become a global icon for his razor-sharp wit, fearless opinions, and unique comedic style. But in Britain, he's more than just a comedian. Ricky has become a voice for the people, unafraid to dig into the tough questions, to challenge authority, and to call out hypocrisy wherever he sees it. Whether he's exposing the absurdities in politics or daring to question power, Ricky doesn't hold back. People talk about the working class, but what does that really mean? Working class families are the ones who get out there every day, earning a living by working hard. Unlike the middle class, who may have a certain level of comfort, the working class is about striving, about the everyday hope to get on in life. This is the ordinary dream, to get a decent education, secure a stable job, maybe own a car and enjoy a modest life. In Britain, there's a certain admiration for Ricky Gervais's raw honesty. His unfiltered criticisms of the government echo with people who feel like they're not being heard. And now, Ricky's got his eye on Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, igniting discussions that have really struck a chord with the public. Of course, with Ricky, there's always a touch of irreverence. He'd probably joke, "Well, there's no kids watching anyway, if I'm being blunt here. I apologise if people are eating their tea. I'm about to start tearing into the government. It is Christmas after all." Ricky Gervais's appeal lies in his sheer authenticity. He's a comedian unafraid to challenge societal norms, poke fun at powerful figures, and remind us all not to take life so seriously. Known worldwide for shows like The Office and Afterlife, Gervais's humour often dives into uncomfortable truths, exposing the absurdity of daily life and the ironies of society. For many, he's a voice of the people, voicing the frustration of everyday Brits tired of politicians' empty promises and self-serving decisions. Gervais's outspoken style has won him a dedicated following, whether he's questioning the decisions of leaders or boldly asking, "Will you nationalise the big six energy companies? Yes or no?" He's not afraid to put them on the spot. When are we going to stop treating went to Eton as a qualification to run the country? For Ricky, calling out hypocrisy and demanding accountability isn't just comedy. It's a message that resonates deeply with a public that's long overdue for real answers. Many people feel that Ricky Gervais is saying exactly what they're thinking, but don't have the platform to express. His fans love how he tackles serious issues with humour, making them easier to digest, even if he does ruffle a few feathers along the way. This exact quality has made his recent critiques of Keir Starmer and his policies hit home for so many. One of the first issues Gervais publicly took a stand on was the imprisonment of Tommy Robinson, a figure known for his strong and often controversial views on British politics and immigration. Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, has long been vocal about what he perceives as government missteps in the UK. On October 26th, Robinson returned to the UK to lead a protest, fully aware of the legal risks. It wasn't long before he was sentenced to 18 months in prison, sparking heated debates across the nation. Breaking news later revealed that Robinson, under his legal name, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, had been charged under terrorism-related laws. To many, including Gervais, this case raises serious questions about freedom of speech and the right to protest. Reflecting on these issues, Gervais mused, "I think I've been naive all my life. Only now am I wondering, why do we trust them? We shouldn't trust the people in charge. That's how they're in charge. They shouldn't be trusted." His words resonate with people who feel disillusioned by leadership and the power structures around them. Gervais questioned whether the government's decision to imprison Tommy Robinson was more than just a punishment. It seemed perhaps like an attempt to silence dissenting voices. Robinson's arrest didn't just put one activist behind bars. It spotlighted a much bigger conversation about the UK government's stance on protests and criticism. Regardless of whether one agrees with Robinson's views, his case has sparked a pressing debate about the limits of free speech and the lengths to which the government might go to maintain control. Ricky's comments reflect a growing unease in Britain about how the government handles activism. People are beginning to wonder, is speaking out now a punishable offence? As usual, Gervais has his finger on the pulse, channeling frustrations that many feel but don't always voice. The worst thing, he says, is that those in charge do whatever they want. His words carry a sting of truth, especially as Keir Starmer's broken promises serve as yet another reminder of the need to hold politicians accountable. Ricky's critique is more than just comedy. It's a message that resonates deeply with people across the country who feel let down by those who vowed to serve them. In challenging these issues, Gervais echoes the sentiments of countless Brits who are tired of seeing leaders dodge accountability and ignore the concerns of everyday citizens. One of Keir Starmer's key campaign promises was a commitment not to raise taxes, something that resonated deeply with voters, especially given the rising cost of living. The idea of additional financial burdens is a major concern for the average Brit. Yet, since taking office, Starmer's actions have painted a different picture. Taxes have increased, affecting a wide range of people, from middle-class families to small business owners. For many, this feels like a betrayal, as these hikes directly contradict the promises he made while campaigning. Ricky Gervais, known for his sharp way of calling out hypocrisy, hasn't held back on this issue. He highlights how frustrating it is to watch politicians make promises to gain support, only to turn around and do the opposite once they're in power. And he's not alone in feeling this way. Many share his frustration, as these tax increases create a ripple effect across society, making it harder for people to keep up with everyday expenses. In speaking out, Ricky taps into the growing disappointment with leadership that seems increasingly out of touch with the people it's supposed to represent. His critiques resonate because they reflect a truth that many Brits feel, but rarely see voiced so openly. Everyday life is becoming harder for people who are already struggling. From skyrocketing utility bills to rising food costs, many Brits are feeling the pinch, and their faith in their leaders is starting to erode. But it's not just the financial burdens that are frustrating people. There's a growing sense of confusion and absurdity around how we discuss basic issues. Take, for example, the stigma around health advice. Doctors are getting in trouble for telling patients they're overweight, as if it's a political statement rather than a medical fact. As Ricky points out, it's not fat shaming, it's trying to save your life. You don't get cancer shaming, do you? And then there's the bizarre example of a school that tried to ban the word obese, claiming it was derogatory. So now the question is, what are we supposed to call it? It's an absurd attempt to sanitize language, but at what cost? Ricky Gervais calls out these contradictions, highlighting how society's fixation on being politically correct often ignores the real practical issues that affect everyday life. Ground children, right, but that's the polite term we invented, so we didn't say a fat little. You know what I mean? Don't keep changing words just because one person gets offended, Ricky Gervais quips, highlighting how absurd our obsession with political correctness can sometimes seem. As these issues continue to pile up, there's a growing call for Keir Starmer to step down. People are losing confidence in his ability to lead, and frustration is reaching a boiling point. Many feel that under his leadership, the UK is spiralling downward with no clear way out. For some, Starmer represents the type of politician more concerned with his image and maintaining power than actually addressing the real needs of the public. This frustration is evident in his own party. When asked whether he would resign if the Labour Party lost badly, Starmer's answer was a firm "yes, thank you." But for many, that doesn't feel like enough. Ricky Gervais, ever the voice of the people, has become one of Starmer's loudest critics, questioning whether his leadership is doing more harm than good. And it seems Gervais's fans agree. Online forums, social media, and news articles are overflowing with comments calling for Starmer to resign. The message is clear. The UK is desperate for change, and many feel it won't come under Starmer's leadership. This demand for his resignation isn't just about taxes or free speech, it's about trust. The British public feels that their trust has been broken, and they're no longer willing to stay silent about it. Figures like Ricky Gervais are amplifying these concerns, putting even more pressure on Starmer. Another point that Gervais has raised is Starmer's potential fallout with former US President Donald Trump, a topic that adds another layer of complexity to an already contentious leadership. Earlier this year, Keir Starmer made headlines by sending representatives from the Labour Party to support Kamala Harris's campaign. On the surface, this might have seemed like a routine political alliance, but it's raised eyebrows for its potential to strain the UK's relationship with Donald Trump, who remains a major force in American politics. Trump has long been loyal to those who back him and has maintained a strong positive relationship with Nigel Farage, a British politician whose views align more closely with Trump's own. In this context, Farage's reaction to Starmer's Labour Party is telling. He openly stated, "Welcome to this new Labour Party. He's the last person I want to join it." And while a list of names might not seem like a big deal, Farage's sentiments reflect deeper tensions. This isn't just about political allegiances, it's about the broader implications for the Labour Party's positioning on the world stage. There's a serious underlying point here. Aligning too closely with figures like Kamala Harris may alienate a significant part of the British electorate, especially those who feel a stronger connection to figures like Trump and Farage. The question now is whether Starmer's Labour Party can navigate these waters without further alienating voters both at home and abroad. If we're to renew our country, we need to ensure we carry as many people with us as possible, Ricky Gervais notes, always tuned in to the political nuances of the moment. His insight into Keir Starmer's decision to align with Kamala Harris highlights a potential pitfall for the Labour leader. Gervais suggests that this move could come back to haunt Starmer if Trump regains power or continues to wield significant influence in the US. Trump, known for his loyalty to those who support him, may view Starmer's choice to side with Harris as a slight. This could create tension between the UK and the US, particularly if Trump strengthens ties with Nigel Farage, someone who has long been an ally of Trump and shares his views on nationalism and economic freedom. Ricky's comments aren't just a critique of Starmer, they're a warning about the broader implications for the UK's relationship with one of its most crucial allies. Trump's long-standing positive relationship with Farage is no secret. The two have even campaigned together on shared issues. So, if Starmer's political alignment risks alienating Trump and his supporters, it could have a ripple effect that leaves the UK in a precarious position. And Nigel Farage has long been one of the first British politicians to publicly support Donald Trump, and Trump has reciprocated that loyalty. This friendship is something Starmer should have kept in mind when making political alliances. Trump has often spoken highly of Farage, acknowledging his influence and the way he shook up politics in the UK. In fact, Trump once praised Farage, saying, "He's a fantastic guy. He's always been my friend and I've liked him for some reason. He's shaking things up pretty well over there. He was the big winner of the last election and he's a very spectacular man, highly respected." Farage is a little bit of a rebel, but that's good. Don't change, Nigel. Ricky Gervais, with his signature wit, highlights the irony of Starmer's approach. While Starmer has been busy courting American politicians on the left, he may have overlooked the importance of maintaining a balanced relationship with key figures like Trump and Farage. By aligning with one side, he risks alienating those who could be valuable allies in shaping the UK's future, particularly if the political tides shift again. Gervais points out the potential long-term consequences of Starmer's political moves. If the right-leaning populist camp regains momentum, the UK could find itself out of sync with powerful figures like Trump and Farage. In a world where political alliances can shift quickly, the relationships between leaders are more important than ever. By choosing to send representatives to support Kamala Harris, Starmer may have unintentionally damaged the UK's standing with Trump and his supporters. Ricky Gervais, ever the keen observer, reminds the public that politics isn't just about policies, it's about relationships. And in this case, Starmer may have risked one of the UK's most significant international connections. Once again, Gervais proves he's more than just a comedian. His critiques of Starmer touch on issues that are deeply affecting millions of people across the UK, from rising taxes and broken promises to concerns about free speech and strained international ties. Ricky's comments resonate because they capture the very real frustrations felt by the public. He gives a voice to those who feel powerless, speaking out on their behalf with the honesty, humour and wit that have made him such a beloved figure. Whether it's calling out hypocrisy, questioning leadership or simply speaking truth to power, Gervais reminds us that laughter can be a powerful tool for sparking important conversations and pushing for change. Just because you're offended, it doesn't mean you're right, Ricky Gervais says, cutting through the noise with his signature bluntness. Offence is all about feelings and feelings are personal. Some people are offended by equality, so what? You can't second guess everyone. He makes an important point. If you try to please everyone, you'll please no one. Comedy, in particular, thrives on pushing boundaries and tackling taboos, even if it means stirring discomfort. Sometimes you have to deal with contentious issues, and that means using irony. Some people don't get it, but that's the nature of the beast. And his final thought rings true for much of today's oversensitive culture. You can't legislate against stupidity, otherwise you'd end up saying nothing, doing nothing. Gervais captures the essence of freedom of expression, reminding us that comedy should challenge, provoke, and make us think, even if it occasionally ruffles feathers. You should polarise, Ricky Gervais declares, because everyone's different, With his sharp humour and candidness, Ricky reminds us of the importance of holding politicians accountable. His critiques aren't just punchlines, they're reflections of the real concerns many people are too afraid to voice. As Britain navigates through these turbulent times, Gervais's words serve as a much-needed reminder. Sometimes the most important truths are the ones we can laugh at. Comedy, after all, has always had the power to expose uncomfortable realities. Ricky's comments on Keir Starmer aren't just casual jokes, they're a rallying cry for change. His refusal to stay silent in the face of what he sees as hypocrisy and failure speaks to a public that's ready for something different. Whether or not Starmer responds, one thing is clear. Ricky Gervais has once again proven that humour can be a powerful tool for sparking change and challenging the status quo.